All right, folks, crypto market updates. Happy solstice. Happy Friday. We'll try to keep this one a little bit on the shorter side today. Um, so, looking also next week, we're going to be taking a good chunk of the week off and probably do some updates later in the week. But the probably I'd say Monday to Thursday there won't be any updates, and then we'll perhaps do one on Friday. If anything major changes, or happens in the markets, obviously I'm still going to be paying attention. And if I send trade alerts or watch lists or something like that over the holidays, I'll do that. But other than that, crypto does tend to like to go nuts over Christmas. So we'll see how that plays out. I remember 2016, it was going nuts over Christmas. Last year, it was going nuts over Christmas. Bitcoin loves to mess with us over Christmas. It's its MO. But I'm going to try to take some time off. So we'll have an update on Friday, but the rest of the week we won't have updates. And I'll post that in the announcement section. All right. So, looking at the Bitcoin, we have a little bit of a cooling period right now. You look at the 3-day, nice volume on this 3-day candle right here. This 1-week candle pretty much took back, I'd say, about 3 weeks worth of dumping. It reclaimed about 3 weeks worth of dumping. So let's see if we can build up some more weak candles. That'd be nice. I'd like to see something like this, right? Or at least, if we could at least get 3 consecutive weeks or something, then perhaps that'll take us into the 5s. So that's what I'm gunning for. So I'm just being very, very patient. I'm not really looking for, Mickey Mouse moves. I'm looking for bigger waves. That's what I like, bigger waves. That's why I didn't like this chop right here, because I like the bigger waves, right? That's generally where I find one can make good money with the least amount of effort, really. Just most of the time just requires patience. So that said, if you want to hustle and grind and juggle and do backflips and all kinds of stuff, then yeah, you could play the 1 hour game. You could play on the smaller time frames, each to their own. Everyone's got to find their own niche depending on where they're at in their trading career, right? So that's Bitcoin. Just looks like there's still a lot of room for this momentum here. But of course, after multiple days, multiple green days, it makes sense to have some cooling off. And we might even see some last minute tax harvesting next week, right? So we might even need to have a pause next week on a new week candle. We'll see how that fares out, or several days of selling. So we'll see how that plays out. But you can see here, we had these green transition days. Got this little cross over here, and 4 green days that were with momentum, right? Nice large candles, uptick in volume. And now we need to cool off from that. I can't just necessarily have this many green days in a row without a cool off period. So it's now establishing price discovery in the 4K. Of course, it could always roll over and flop and die a horrible death down to the 2K region, and then all of social media will be in despair again. But we'll see how this plays out. I'm still kind of just being patient, just because this is a nice large green 1-week candle that took out several of these. Now, looking at the overall markets, obviously we're seeing correlation. Bitcoin has a pause. We see a lot of markets have a pause. Some markets have popped off a double. some markets like, you know, Bcash actually went up a triple just to spite me for Christmas. Congrats on anyone who made money off of that though. Um, and something interesting that I did notice, because I'm, you know, I clue into Tezos every day, like on a fundamental note, and I just kind of look at it. I don't necessarily stare at the price, but I just kind of tune in every day to the growth of the ecosystem. A lot of what I keep seeing is just new meetups around the world, new grants, new developers, new projects. Just every day, every week, you see some new information trickling in as it grows. One thing I did notice, I looked at it today and there seemed to be an uptick in volume. So I had to check it out. I said, okay, well, is the market added to it? That's because the price hasn't really moved. It's showing right BTC apparently is pushing 4.5 million volume. I don't know how, you know, if that's wash sales or what. It's apparently it's a exchange in Dubai. It's iffy. I don't necessarily know if I would recommend this exchange. It seems like it has limited support. Might be iffy, but you know, if people in Dubai happen to want to buy up Tezos or whatnot, then, you know, obviously that's good, right? The more volume, the better. Like I said, we'll just likely continuously see these volume numbers grow as it gets added on more exchanges, and then as the ecosystem grows, there'll be more news and stuff like that. So just keeping my eyes on that. As far as gainers today, it looks like Tron had a nice push. Interesting thing looking at Tron, so kind of went up a double if you look on the 1 week candle. And what's interesting about this, what I like about looking at stuff like this, is that in 1 week this market reclaimed 5 weeks of sell-off, right, where it broke down from support and then bled out with some sideways. So, you know, 5 weeks of candles here, and in 1 week it just takes it all back. Now it's hitting some resistance. Generally, throughout these markets as a whole, what I would like to see, and this to me would be more confirmation of an alt season and maybe even, you know, riding positions for triples and such, to see a break of the resistance that was the horizontal resistance that was established before the breakdown, right? So the reason why I need to see that is because even right now with this pop, it could just flop and then that would be a lower high, right? Lower high, lower low. Doesn't really take us out of the lower chop zone. But if we have markets that punch through, then suddenly we get into higher high, higher low. Now we know alt season's on, probably in full bloom, at which point, you know, watch the size of these candles and then perhaps take big profit. Yeah, that's a good point, Ninjutsu. Saying right BTC is also providing a delegation service. So it's possible that they're allowing people to trade on the exchange and delegate from the exchange. Like I said, we need to see more of this across exchanges. I don't really know the exchange, so I can't vouch for them, nor would I. I'm very hesitant about trusting new exchanges. I like to stick with the more established ones that I'm familiar with. That said, we need to see this on more exchanges, right? If we start to see Kraken and Bitfinex and other exchanges giving delegation fees, you know, allowing people to delegate while keeping their Tezos on the exchanges and trading, then we'll likely see more trading activity, more liquidity, because right now I think it's over 80% of the network is currently staking. So that kind of makes the markets a little bit illiquid. So we'll probably see some more of that. I know that if they ever get added on Binance, they'll probably end up doing that. I think Binance was giving, or it does give, gas for Neo and stuff like that. So this is just kind of what I'm looking for in relation to the altcoin markets. Now 88 seemed like it popped up a little bit too. Kind of looks like it, from the bottom, it looks like it went up almost a double. Maybe not quite. Hasn't reclaimed yet the previous high. Let's break this down on a 1D. Looks like there's a bit of a descending wedge type formation. Very slim descending wedge. So be nice to break that. Could see some upwards momentum. This has been going on for most of the year. Looking at the BTC charts, you know, very, very similar. Very similar. And again, you know, when you look at this, this is why I just always look at the 1D. It's like, yes, it went up 60%, right? And one can certainly trade that. There's nothing wrong with that. But so I like zooming out. I just like zooming out and just looking at, you know, the type of candles that I generally wait for are the ridiculous parabolic candles, the really wild ones, you know. So when you see this just slow, choppy sell-off that is downward yet flattish, you know, I look for counterforce even on that. And what I mean by counterforce is not only counterforce in an upward movement after so much downward selling, but a fast move up versus a slow grind down. Momentum versus slow and choppy. This is a big sell-off, and indeed, if you were to measure it from here to here, it probably sold off a ton. You know, that's 88% sell-off, but it was very slow and choppy. So even though there was a momentum to the downside, there was a lot of inertia on that momentum. It's hitting the brakes and gas the whole time down, just grinding it. So I just patiently wait for the markets to produce counterforce, to produce the opposite, for the pendulum to swing in the other direction. So if the market's been going down, I wait for up. If the markets have taken forever to go down, I wait for the markets to go up and reclaim all of that in a very short period of time, very fast and explosive versus a slow bleed that's been going on for, you know, half a year plus, right? That's kind of what I'm just waiting for. And so in order to do that, it could pop up like 500 type percent. That's the type of movements that I'm looking for. And one can say, well, you know, maybe that's pipe dreaming. You know, maybe you're smoking hopium, you know, high on hope or whatever. But if you've ever traded a market, a crypto market, and ever popped a 10x, a 20x, a 50x, or whatever x, you don't do it by, you know, grabbing 50% gains and going all out. You do it by being patient, just waiting for the markets to get stupid, right? So is that going to happen anytime soon? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Is it going to happen? Probably. So, you know, one thing I just want to point out, and these are the logical questions, and this is what allows me to be patient, because sometimes we get so fixated. It doesn't mean we can't get more downside. Maybe we bleed out some more. You know, that's certainly possible. But what I ask myself in order to be patient, like when we were up here and sitting in cash, the question I kept asking myself, in spite of the markets feeling like they were taking forever to drop below 5 digits, right? Months of waiting to see if this crap would drop below 5 digits. And the question that I kept asking myself in the height of this euphoria was, what are the odds that Bitcoin will never drop below 5 digits again? What are the odds, right? And I concluded that the odds were very slim. It was probably a very high probability, 90% plus probability, that we would likely revisit 4 digits. Market doesn't just reclaim 5 digits and then stays in 5 digits, 5-digit price discovery. You know, it has to earn the right to stay at 5 digits. It's a battle, right? So it got shot down and eventually went back into 4 digits. So when I look at other markets like altcoins, and of course I did catch the bounce pull on the first, drop to 10K because there's a 46% drop, and obviously it had to hit some counter force at that 10K support level. But you know, when you're waiting for 2 months, it can feel like a long time, right? 2 months can feel like a long time. In hindsight, it doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're in it, looking at it day by day, 2 months can feel like a long time. Now, I asked myself the same question. Altcoins have bled out, or 90% plus, sometimes 98% down from the highs. Just this continuous slow bleed. Markets look very flat. Markets, you know, and then I asked myself the question, what are the odds that altcoins are never going to pump and reclaim all of this crap in a very short, violent period of time? And we're never going to get these big explosive candles in altcoins. What are the odds that that's never going to happen again? You know, will the altcoin markets eternally be doomed into this like sideways choppy grind forever? Is this it? Is it dead? Is crypto over? Or are we just going to keep on selling off until the entire market cap of crypto is down to you know, $10 or something like that, to zero, right? We're just going to slowly bleed away all the way to zero, and we'll have a bunch of crypto trinkets and to show our grandchildren, you know, a bunch of ones and zeros on our computer that we work so hard for, that all just goes to zero. And then all the exchanges pack up shit. Everybody packs up shit. Everyone capitulates. You know, the New York Stock Exchange, all those investment products, they all just capitulate. You know, the regulators forget none of this happened. We all quit. We close our Twitter accounts. And that's the end of it. That's the end of Nouriel Roubini becomes president of the U.S., bans it all, and then we end up in work camps in Siberia, right? That, you know, what are the odds that that's going to happen? Well, I think, you know, very, very, you know, 0.0 something percent maybe odds, right? Throwing out percentages off the top of my head. So to me, what's more likely to happen? Are we just going to keep bleeding out forever or going to zero? Or are we at some point, might not be tomorrow, might not be anytime soon, but at some point, are we going to get some explosive, violent green candles and counterforce and have an alt season, and everybody will be drooling and euphoric like nothing happened, right? Is that going to happen again? Well, so far in the history of altcoins, sometimes it can take a while, you know, maybe it can take years, who knows? But in the history of altcoins, we don't underestimate them. That's all I can say. You know, we can't become so blind to staring at our nose right in front of us that we lose sight of you know, the future, or looking at things at a distance, right? So it's really a matter of perspective. You know, do you zoom out, or do you just look at things with a microscope and just focus on this minutia, right? I like focusing on the bigger picture, bigger cycles, the bigger movements and all that stuff, especially in crypto, just because that's actually how I've made the majority of my money in crypto, with those bigger movements, right? So that said, you can still play you can still play smaller movements. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, we're gonna look at we'll look at 3 coins, and then we'll wrap it up for today and make it a shorter update. So we got GNT, VeChain, and one more. Fun. All right, we've got our 3. Okay, I'll do 4. I'll look at hot too. That's it. That's it. We'll do that. Okay, so GNT, 4 is a bonus. All right, GNT, very, very similar BTC chart, just a slow, choppy grind. It got punished for that Coinbase listing. All right, listen on Coinbase. Dump it into the dirt. Grind this coin into dust, into oblivion. Got listed on Coinbase. Immediate exchange listings are generally good. Sell on the news events. But those exchange listings, like stuff like Coinbase, are generally good for the longer term life of the coin. New users come in, they come in through Coinbase, they see GNT, they're like, oh wow, this is dirt cheap, couple cents. I think I'll buy some of that. Boom, right? So dollar wise, it's probably kind of at a new low. Yeah, it's been going up a few days, but it's still in the lower end of the spectrum. So just like any other coins, I want to see a break of that resistance. I want to see a break of this, right? And then any resistance area that I would measure, target areas would be, anything that lines up. So you could see this area lines up with this resistance. We've got this lining up with this resistance. So I would find resistance points that kind of line up with fib areas. And then I would look at the size of the candles. And, and sometimes if you don't sell into strength or have an order on the order book, you can see the wicks selling off, sellers step in, maybe some divergence. So that's kind of what I would look for. That's the type of stuff that I'm just kind of being patient for. Actually, I just want to show you waves, because yesterday it said sellers are stepping in, and I thought it was a good area to possibly take some profit on waves. And Spoofy to Barrowell has confirmed that for us and decided to dump. Anytime you see a big move up, large green candles coming into resistance at a news event, major news event, and it hasn't popped a red candle yet, even if you didn't catch these wicks, it's just generally a good time to take profit. I don't even question those things. So I look at general areas and targets and such, but if I start to see market behavior like that prior to that, and listen, almost like every news event this year is being sold into, dumped into, every exchange listing, ZRX getting added to Coinbase, that got dumped into, Zcash added to Coinbase, that got dumped into, it's almost comical, right? But the cool thing about that is it makes it very predictable, right? So it's like, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, it just makes it predictable. Oh, exchange listing, I know the drill, I got the memo, I'm selling, taking profit. There you go, right? And whoever doesn't know the memo gets caught holding the bag. So what was the other one? So that was VeChain. All right, we'll look at VeChain. See if there's something with a little bit more market data. Oh, there you go. This is nice. It's kind of it's an Adam and Eve double bottom type scenario. Big sell-off. Break of the descending line, the immediate descending line. So we broke that at support. I like these kind of plays. So we broke that, and maybe I'll chop around, or maybe it's going to want to explode and reclaim some of its lost real estate, right? So if it does, then 61.8%. Seems to be some resistance in through here, depending on the size of the candles and all that stuff. I'd probably wait for something like that. That's on the BTC chart and the USD chart. It went lower, right? So broke a new low. Same thing though, did kind of break. Still broke the descending line, or is just kind of about to break it. Maybe inverse head and shoulders. It could be choppy. I mean, this is a very ugly looking chart. It's this choppy chart. Oh, look, Bitcoin wants to continue See if it continues on its trajectory. So very similar to other things. I would just be patient, right? I would be patient because we've already seen with stuff like waves and with other markets, when you see other markets reclaiming 6 to 8 months of grindy, choppy sell-off in a few weeks and a month, it's time to pay attention, right? Because those can be leading indicators. Since the markets are so correlated, sometimes profits can start cycling through. Profits get taken from those coins into Bitcoin. And then they start moving other markets and then start cycling through. And this is kind of how alt season generally looks like. So I just wait for the candles to get larger. And it really does take a long time, right? I mean, I've been waiting for months pretty much. So it does take a long time. But when it's time, it takes a long time for it to be time. But when it is time, it doesn't take a long time for it to regain. Regain it very, very quickly, but one has to be very, very patient. Obviously, no guarantees, but historically, traditionally, every alt season I've traded was always like that. And usually, the people who tend to make the most money in all of this are just the ones who know how to be patient, manage emotions, who don't, sweat bullets and cry all day about stuff, right? That's usually what separates the warriors from the worriers. So. All right, fun, same thing. Grinding in the gutter, I call this pattern the flipping burgers at McDonald's pattern. Anyways, just kind of slow grind, see if it pops out and reclaims some of this disaster. So that's fun. And then it'll be fun, right? Just like this. Boom. How quickly did that just reclaim? And then obviously you got to take profit because then it crashes and then you're back to square one. Then it's back to square one. And if you don't take profit, then USD chart looks kind of ugly. All right, we'll look at Holochain and then we'll wrap it up. I think dollar-wise, this ended up coming back to my break-even point. Satoshi-wise, I'm still up. Dollar-wise, I think, like I bought it at 4 or 5 Satoshis, but the Bitcoin price dropped, so it's been fairly flat. Just very flat, grindy. It does have good liquidity, though. It's got fairly decent buy support, although I think that the volume has dried up a little bit since last. Yeah, volume's so. We haven't seen a lot of Binance action, right? We haven't seen a lot of Binance action yet. When we start to see a big uptick in Binance and the volume, then we know things are cooking. So just playing the waiting game for now, just being patient, waiting until Q1. We're almost there. We're getting very, very close to Q1. So see if the tides shift leading up to Bakkt and all that great stuff happening in Q1 once tax harvesting season is over. Do I believe in HOT as a project? I think it's interesting. Are they going to be able to pull it off? I don't know. I do have some as an investment. If it pops to 50 Satoshis, I'm going to sell some. If it goes to 100, I'm going to sell some more. And then if it goes up higher than that, I'll probably, I'll just keep selling some, really. And then I'll eventually be all out. I don't necessarily know if I'll hold it forever. But I like these low Satoshi coins. Perfect world, it'd pull off a Verge. And obviously that'd be pretty nuts if it did. But who knows if one would be able to hold for those kind of explosive gains, All right, so that's it. We'll wrap it up there. Happy Friday. Hope everybody has a happy solstice, a happy weekend, a Merry Christmas, all that fun stuff. Happy Boxing Day. Happy Hanukkah, all that fun stuff. Boxing Day, you can go do some bare knuckle boxing in a back alley. And yeah, just have a great holidays. Take it easy. Try to relax, recharge your batteries, and try not to stare at charts too much. Just be patient. All right, take care, folks. Cheers.